Kokeshi dolls are said to have originated as folk art in the Tohoku region. Most of them have no expression on their face, and there's a reason for that. It's said there was a couple who lived in the Tohoku region who were unable to have children. One day, they made a doll in the hopes of finally giving birth to a healthy child themselves. The next morning, when they looked at the doll, it had an angry expression on its face. They changed it so it looked more cheerful. But the next morning, it once again looked angry. However, the wife found out she was pregnant soon after that, and the couple were overjoyed. But unfortunately, the birth was not an easy one, and the wife lost a lot of blood. In the end, she passed away. When the baby was born, the father noticed they had the same expression of anger as the doll they had made. And that's why after that, the dolls were made with neutral expressions instead. Hello and welcome to Toshiden, exploring Japanese urban legends. I'm your host, Tara A. Devlin, and on this show we'll be looking at different urban legends from Japan, how they came about and, when possible, the truth behind them. If you want even more urban legends, make sure you pick up Toshiden Volume 4 for even more terrifying tales that you can find only in the books. And if you'd like early access to both this show and Kawabana, or you'd just like to support us, you can find our Patreon at patreon.com/Tara A. Devlin. Thanks, guys. For those unfamiliar with Kokeshi dolls, they are simple wooden dolls that look like a tube with an oversized head on top. They have no limbs, and the face is painted on with thin, simple lines in a generally neutral expression. The bodies are often decorated with floral patterns, with red being the most common colour found on them, but you can find Kokeshi dolls in other colours as well. These dolls were first created in the Tohoku region, in Japan's northeast, but their history and even the origin behind the word Kokeshi remains unclear to this day. Because of that, Kokeshi dolls have numerous urban legends surrounding them. It is believed that the first Kokeshi dolls were likely made in the Zao Mountains in Miyagi Prefecture in the early 1800s. The story goes that wood turners created them out of wood left over from Buddhist altar fittings and Shinto ceremonial treasures, and then gave them to children to use as toys. Guests from the hot spring area were so impressed by the quality of these toys, however, that they wished to purchase them for their own children, and so an industry was born. But is that really the whole truth? Over the years, all sorts of rumours have sprung to life, much like the dolls, claiming that the real reason behind the dolls' existence was actually much more sinister. Hell, it's right there in the name. In modern times, Kokeshi is usually spelt using the Japanese hiragana phonetic alphabet. It has numerous kanji, Chinese characters, combinations as well, but it's unclear whether any of these are actually correct, or were simply attached later. Many of them use the characters for wood or small to represent the ko sound, while keshi can use the characters for opium poppy, or a combination of shape or tile and then child. At any rate, the hiragana-only spelling has been in use since the late 1930s. But there's another more sinister reading, if you believe the rumours. One that uses the characters for child, ko, and erase, keshi. Kokeshi, erasing a child. During the Edo period, many regions suffered terrible famines, and it was said that some areas took part in a practice called mabiki, or culling. In essence, deliberately killing or exiling people so there would be less mouths to feed. Those culled were often the elderly, the infirm, or, if you believe the rumors, young children. And so, it's said, the Kokeshi dolls came about as a way to memorialize and pay tribute to the children who were culled during famines. Unhappy spirits lead to hauntings, and you can't have that. There is, of course, no proof that such cullings ever took place, but it does make for a great scary story. Who doesn't love a sinister tale to turn a beloved children's toy on its rather round head? This theory also naturally led to the related idea that the dolls weren't just for memorials, but were actually substitutes for children as well. Perhaps the keshi in Kokeshi was actually keshin, meaning an incarnation or avatar. One common story speaks of a woman who loved Kokeshi dolls so much that she had over 100 of them in her house. When she got married, she moved out, leaving her dolls behind. But when she finally got pregnant and gave birth, the child died shortly thereafter. When the woman returned home, she saw all her dolls and noticed that one of them looked just like her baby that had passed away. She feared that the Kokeshi doll was actually jealous of her child and erased it. Another story relates the tale of a mother and her 2 children who were involved in a car accident when a truck ignored the lights and hit them. The car was totaled, the mother injured, but miraculously, the children only suffered minor injuries. Doctors simply couldn't understand it. When the family got home, the mother noticed something odd. The Kokeshi dolls on their Shinto altar were damaged. Both had fallen over and broken. Instinctively, the mother felt like the dolls had taken the injuries her children should have had in the accident. Both meanings have become common over the years, but the erase version tends to have the most scary stories, for obvious reasons. These aren't the only proposed origins for the word Kokeshi, however. Various theories have been floated about over the years, with some of them suggesting the name comes from keshibozu, a popular hairstyle children had during the Edo period that resembles the hair on Kokeshi dolls. Others suggest the word comes from tsutsumi dolls, a type of clay doll produced in Japan's northeast. These dolls were also called akakeshi, or red opium poppy, with the red symbolizing the clay. As such, the wooden dolls made in the same general area then simply changed the red kanji to the tree kanji, and you end up with Kokeshi. A similar theory suggests the name comes from keshi dolls, which were extremely small dolls that were popular during the Edo period, also using the same kanji as the akakeshi dolls above. Again, because Kokeshi dolls are made of wood, the kanji for tree was added to the front and voila, you have Kokeshi. Or perhaps the name came from Hoko dolls, dolls that were made to pray for children's health. Or maybe it came from one of numerous dolls who were named after mountain kami-sama in the northeast. There seems to be no end to the theories of where the word Kokeshi came from, or even what it means. We do, however, have solid evidence for where at least one of these came from. But where did the idea that Kokeshi means to erase a child come from? Who was the first person to decide there was a hidden darker meaning and spread that to the masses? In this case, we actually know and have proof. In the early 1970s, author and poet Matsunaga Goichi published several fairy tale collections. In those, we can find Kokeshi Mandala, published in 1973, and Kokeshi Gensoko, published in 1972. In these stories, Matsunaga proposes the idea that the true meaning of Kokeshi is that of culling children. Then, the Kokeshi dolls, as we know them today, were created and put on shelves to memorialize the children who died. However, no proof has ever been found of this idea before Matsunaga's stories, and so it's generally been accepted that Matsunaga himself came up with this idea. It was simply fiction. At any rate, the idea was so creepy that it ended up becoming the most popular theory behind why Kokeshi dolls are called that to this day. Even now, if you look them up online, this legend will generally be one of the first things you come across. And that brings us to the end of this week's episode. You can help support us and get early access to both this show and Kawabana over on our Patreon at patreon.com/TaraADevlin. And if you still want even more urban legends, Toshiden Volume 4 is available right now, so don't miss out. Thanks guys, and I'll see you again next time for even more Toshiden, exploring Japanese urban legends.